part 2 is on more factoring. Alright, so these are going to be just like we did before, just a little bit harder. Alright, so kind of review what we did. We did factor by grouping, right? So you guys had a lot of factor by grouping ones on your homework. So we're going to split the middle. I'm going to pull out the common factor, which is x squared from the left. That means I would have x minus 5 left. And then over here, I want to have the identical part in parentheses. I want to have x minus 5 exactly. Okay, so in order to get that, I'm going to pull out a negative 1. Okay, so now the x minus 5 is now my common factor, so now I pull it to the front. So I'm going to have x minus 5 all the way out front. And I'm going to have x squared minus 1 left in the other parentheses. Okay, I do this a lot on your homework. Hopefully you guys noticed this on the first 6 problems that I did factor by grouping, and then a lot of them had difference of 2 squares, so look for that. So now I have x squared minus 1, which factors into x plus 1 and x minus 1, but you still have that x minus 5 from before that's out front. So that is your final answer. All right, now the next one is x to the 6th. It is not like the x to the 6th that we did a little bit ago. It is one where it's a trinomial, right, 3 terms, so we're just going to do our 2 sets of parentheses. So I'm going to have x cubed and x cubed. And I want my numbers on the end to multiply to be negative 27, but I want my outer and inner swoops to add to be negative 26, right? So in this case, it's pretty simple. You're just going to do negative 27 and positive 1. Negative 27, and I'm going to have positive 1. Am I done? Can I box it in?
No.
No, because now you have cubes, right? So this is going to be the sum of 2 cubes. So notice how it's like x is being cubed plus 1 is being cubed. And this other one is like x is being cubed minus 3 is being cubed. So you have to break it apart even more. So we have the sum of 2 cubes and the difference of 2 cubes. So I do my binomial and my trinomial. And then for this one, I'm going to do a binomial and a trinomial. So in the first parenthesis, I'm just going to have x plus 1. Just drop the cubes. Then I'm going to square the first item, and I get x squared. And I square the last item, and I get 1. And then I multiply the 2 items together. So x times 1 is 1x. Then I have same, different, plus, or same, opposite, always positive, SOAP, like we talked about. So same, opposite, always positive. So same thing over here. I'm just going to drop the cubes. So I'm going to have x minus 3. I'm going to square the first item, and I'm going to square the last item. And then I'm going to multiply these 2 together. So I'm going to have 3x in the middle. Just ignore the sign. And then again, your signs are SOAP. Same, opposite, always positive. So I'm going to have plus and plus. So that's your final answer. When you have cubes, those the trinomial part that you have doesn't factor anymore. So you're good. All right, so now I have x to the 4th. So I'm going to need 2 sets of parentheses because it is a trinomial. So I'm going to need x squared and x squared in the first spots. I need my last numbers to multiply to be 40, but I need my outer and inner swoops to combine to be negative 13. So any guesses as to what I put? Nope, not 20 and 2 because they won't combine to be 13. Yeah, Emerson? Yep, 5 and 8. So they're both negative because they multiply to be a positive 40, but they need to combine. Right, see how the outer is negative 8x squared, the inner is negative 5x squared, so they do combine to be negative 13x squared in the middle. All right, number 4, and that's done, right? It can't go any further because it's not the difference of 2 squares, right? 8 isn't a perfect square and 5 isn't a perfect square, so we're done. Okay, number 4, I have a GCF. My GCF is x squared. So I pull it to the front, so I have x squared, and then I have parentheses x to the 4th minus 4. And then I factor. I have x to the 4th minus 4. That is the difference of 2 squares. So I'm going to factor into x squared plus 2 and x squared minus 2. Now, luckily, 2 is not a perfect square, so now we're done. If it had been x squared minus 4, though, you would go one more time, right? It'd be x plus 2, x minus 2. So we're done here. Okay, the next one has an x to the 4th. So I'm going to do my 2 sets of parentheses. I'm going to have 2x squared, and I'm going to have an x squared. That way I'm multiplying to get 2x to the 4th. On the end, I have a factor of 6, or I have 6, so my factors of 6 are 1 and 6 or 2 and 3. But remember, we talked about this. We can't put a 2 here because then we would have a GCF, right? But we didn't have a GCF in the original, so we can't possibly put the 2 there. Okay, so let's try putting the 3 here and the 2 here. Well, if I do that, then my outer and my inner are 3x squared and 4x squared. Can I combine those to get positive 1x squared? Yeah, if I have a positive 4 and a negative 3. Just make sure that it doesn't mess up your signs on the very end, though, right? They still are multiplying to be negative 6, so we're good. Okay, so that's your answer. Okay, so you should be getting very good about visualizing the outer and the inner. That's why we did those little slips of paper, those games, right? Okay, so I have 5x squared plus 24x minus 5. So when I break this one apart, I'm going to do my 2 sets of parentheses. I'm going to do 5x and x. Are you seeing where you're going to put the 5 and the 1? So I put the 5 on the right or the left? On the right, correct. Because I want it to be outer is 25x. Inner is 1x. I want a positive 25 and a negative 1 to combine to be that positive 24 in the middle. Okay, so we're good. All right, so let's try the next ones. A little bit harder. This one's not bad, I guess. So this is 4x squared plus 4x minus 15. So I'm going to do my 2 sets of parentheses. I'm going to try 2x and 2x. I always try the numbers that are closer together, right? So I had an option of 1 and 4 and 2 and 2, but I'm going to pick the 2 and 2 first. And then 15, I could do 1 and 15 or 3 and 5, so I'm going to do the 3 and 5 first. So if I put the 3 and the 5, when I look at my outer and inner, so I don't always do the swoops. Like, I do this in my head. So you guys saw me checking your paper, like your little paper thing. I do it very quickly. So you guys should be getting to the point where you can kind of do it in your head. So you have 10 and 6. Which one needs to be positive? Which one needs to be negative? So it's 10 positive or 6 positive? 10 is, right? And then the 6 is negative. And that's it. That's your answer. The next one's a factor by grouping, so pull out the x to the 4th. You're going to have x squared plus 2. You know you want to have x squared plus 2 over on the right side. So do you see how you have to pull out a negative 16? So now we have a common factor of x squared plus 2, so we can pull it to the front, x squared plus 2. And then we have x to the 4th minus 16 left. But that's the difference of 2 squares. So that's going to be x squared minus 4 times x squared plus 4, right? It breaks apart into 2, right, squares. So it broke into these 2. And then what else? Is it done? No? Not minus 2 and plus 1. Nope. The x squared plus 2 stays how it is. What about the x squared minus 4, though? That's the difference of 2 squares. So if it has 2 terms, but it's not the difference of 2 squares, the difference or sum of 2 cubes, then it's done. It's fine. It doesn't factor anymore. But this x squared minus 4 breaks into x plus 2 and x minus 2. So then I'm going to have the x squared plus 4 on the end. So x squared plus 4 doesn't actually factor. Remember we did that yesterday. We tried to do x plus 2 and x plus 2, but it didn't work because we'd have a 4x in the middle. So we're done. All right, how about this one? So 8x to the 4th plus 10x squared minus 13. So let's think about 8. So I could have 1 and 8, or I could have 2 and 4. And 13 is only 1 and 13. Only one option. So let's say I start with the 2 and the 4. So I usually like to pick the ones that are closest together first. Okay, if you put in the 13 and the 1 here, and you look at your outer and inner, so remember I'm doing these swoops in my head, but I'm thinking 2 and 52. Are 2 and 52 ever going to combine to be 10? No way, right? So that's out. So draw a line through it. So what if you had the 2x and 4, so 4x, so I always keep those in the same spot, but I move the other numbers, 1 and 13. Is that going to give anything? 26 and 4. Am I going to get 10? Nope. Draw a line through it. So we're left, like we can't do the 2 and 4. It's not possible. So it has to be the 1 and 8 if it's going to factor. So I'm going to do 8x and 1x. And then I'm going to put my 13 and my 1. Outer and inner. 8 and 13 combine to be 10? Nope. So what if I do 13 here and a 1 here. That's even worse, right? 8 times 13, that's not going to be anywhere close to 10. So what do we write? Prime. So if you have eliminated all of the possibilities, then it is prime. Now, like I said, I do not put prime ones on your test. So it will factor. And I just do that because people are crazy and just write prime for every single one. So it's not going to happen. I'm not going to make every single one prime. Who would do that? Someone really mean, I think, right? You try to factor every single one and they don't work. All right, anyway, so 5x squared plus 29x plus 20. So there's no common factor, right? So I'm going to do my 2 sets of parentheses. I'm going to do 5x and x. I need 20 on the end, so I'm going to do 2 and 10, 1 and 20, or 5 and 4. So that's what we talked about yesterday, the common factor thing. So notice how this really is helping you. You can't put a 20 here. You can't put a 5 here. You can't put a 10 here. You've eliminated half your choices. You can only put a 1, a 4, or a 2. Okay, so let's try the 2 that are closest together, the 4 and 5. So let's put the 4 here and the 5 here. Does it work? Yeah. So plus and plus, you get 25 and 4, so you get 29x in the middle. Is factoring so much easier now? Have you learned all of the tricks yet? Is it better than Algebra 1 at least? Yes. Good. There are tricks. You will learn them. You will get very good at these. All right, so for the Are You Up for the Challenge, if you can do this one and you can bring it to me, I don't know, like in the next couple days. Like I said, I'll be out of the conference, but if you want to put it in my mailbox or on my desk or whatever, I will give you a bonus point if you get that all the way correct. So this is a bonus point, 1 point.